Hello and thanks for joining us. The idea of today's video is to show you exactly what you're receiving when you buy our 2-button Vauxhall key case that fits models such as Corsa E, Zafira B, Insignia, Astra J and so forth. Okay. So you get the key itself with a screw. The screw is very easy to miss, so just keep an eye out for that one. You also receive a little slip just to say thank you for the purchase, and also if you do come across any issues, do get in contact rather than leaving negative or neutral feedback. We do test all items before they go out, so to the best of our knowledge they're all in full working order, but as with anything mechanical, we do understand there can be some issues. Okay, so when you tip out the actual case and the screw, this is what you're going to get. Okay, that's where the screw goes towards the end of the process. And today I actually have a key here that's quite bad. Yeah, pretty bad. So what I would usually do, although this is separated quite well anyway, is if this was in a bit of a better nick, we get a pair of circlip pliers and we would split the case open and then remove the case and remove the PCB. Okay, so the only reason we use a pair of circlip pliers rather than a flathead screwdriver, for example, is there's a lot of opponents inside this key that's very easy to attack. For example, if you try to go through it with a flathead, this part of the car starts, this part of the board starts the car, and here is the buttons. Okay, so if you were to get a flathead and go through it, you would quite easily take out some of these components. Okay, so this is definitely the best way to go, and if you don't have a pair of circlip pliers, just be very careful when we're taking it apart. Okay, so the only thing useful outside of this case is the blade. So you've got the blade here and the board. Okay, so everything else is pretty much useless. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start by removing the retaining pin out of this key. Now, common mistake that a lot of people make, they try to fit the whole of the flip shoulder into the new case that we supply. The new case is not compatible with the whole part. Okay, it's a slightly thicker case with obviously a screw hole in the back, which keeps it quite nice and tight, as where the original shoulders and cases are sort of pretty loose. Okay, so we need to remove the blade out of here, and to do that we will usually use a clamping tool, but I can appreciate most people don't have that. So I've got a couple of bits of cardboard here I've put together, so I'm going to just pop the key on there. I'm going to use a little tool that I adapted, but again, depending on what you've got, you may use something else. So just going to pop, so that should have sort of come out. Okay, so if your tool is slightly longer, it would knock it right through. I'm just going to grab a pair of pliers here and just take the rest of it out like so. Okay, so as mentioned, shoulder is no longer any good. Okay, so that is the original blade. Now that pin we also don't need, that's just come out of the old case, so we can use the pin with the new case. Just pop that aside, and then same process again, just slightly separate the case, and then you should sort of get all the bits like that, so we can just pop these bits to the side. Same thing again, so we're just knocking the pin out of here, and then we're going to put the original blade into the shoulder. Now, one thing you can do, you can leave this as it is and not knock anything out, and then go and get this blade duplicated from the original key, by a local Timpson's or a locksmith or so forth. Okay, today I'm going to show you the way by knocking the pin out, just because it's a bit more of an all-inclusive process that can be done almost straight away, providing you have a few of the basic tools. Okay, so I'm just going to knock this out here. So again, so that is just, there's a pin just there, so we can actually use that pin. Now these do come out, these are quite tight, so you just got to give that a bit of a wiggle. You might even need to give it a bit of a, in fact that is quite tight, so you can just pull that out. Okay, like so. So obviously this process we're going to use the old blade, so we don't need that one. Now for the most part these blades will fit in straight away, and you will see there's a hole straight through there ready for the pin to go in. In some cases you might need to file this slightly. All the original keys are not millimeter perfect, so they can differ a little bit. It's very, very rare that we see that, so I would very much doubt that you'd need to. But anyway, we're going to pop this into here like so, and then we're going to place, now it can be a bit fiddly, so you've got to have a bit of patience. We're going to pop the retaining pin inside here, and then we're going to try, and we don't really need the cardboard for this part, a bit of a solid worktops probably better. So sometimes we would use something like this, whereby that will go on top and then we can punch it down. Again, because most people probably wouldn't have something like that, so we're just going to try and take a bit of time and knock that in with a hammer. So thing here is just to make sure it's all flush. Even the blade is pretty damaged. I mean, that casing was pretty damaged. Yeah, I'm assuming most people's probably wouldn't be like this. Okay, so that is the blade ready to go on the new one. We don't need this bits anymore. So here is the new parts. So now this can be fiddly once again. So what we need to do with this is, you'll see a little tail here. You need to put the opposite side of that into here, so it looks a little bit like that. Okay, and then all we're going to do is, before we do that, I'm just going to pop the board into the case. So on here you'll notice there is a little knobble here, and then there is also a hole for that to go in on the board. So quite important to get this right and make sure it sits in there. And the reason for that is, if it sits slightly over or sits slightly out of the case, when you push the casing together, you do risk sort of chomping the board and you know, chopping half, well, the top part of the board off. So just be very careful and make sure that's sitting in there. Okay, so you'll know when it's sitting, because it shouldn't just pop out. Okay, so on here we have little slots. Okay, 3 little slots. Now this one here runs straight through. Okay, so all we've got to do is get the highest part. Oh, let's have a look here. So you want to use, let's try and get, it's harder to record this. So you've got these bits here, and then you've got one just at the top, which is this one just here. Okay, it's the smallest one, and it's higher up towards the spring. So you want to pop that into the longest part there, which should then look like that. Okay, if you pop it in any other way, it will sit a bit further up, and obviously it won't sit into the case as it should. So for example, if I put it down the wrong hole, it's not, obviously it's not proud. Okay, so I'm going to pop that back in there. So again, we're aiming for the longer groove, which is that one. So you can see the highest part there, just going through the longest groove. Oh, so let's try that again. So just like that. Okay, and then on here you'll also notice there's a groove for this to sit in. which is just there. Okay, so that's sort of what it should look like. Okay, and once you've got it in, you just need to give it a little twist and then a full twist right round. Put a bit of pressure on it so it doesn't fling back out, and then you'll need to get it round. Okay, you'll know when it's round because it will sort of sit flush to the case. If it's sitting proud, again, you'll see the little gap here. Put a bit of pressure on it as it won't clip in properly. Now, as I say, it's quite a bit fiddly, so it might take a bit of time. And then all you got to do is just pop the top bit on, and then get that together. Okay. So that's the casing part done. And all you got to do is just pop the screw into here and just do the screw up. Now again, as I was saying before, the idea of this is these cases do suffer whereby over sort of use in the ignition, the casing starts to separate. Another thing that will not help is obviously people hang a lot of bits on their key ring, so it just makes the flip mechanism a bit wobbly. So this just sort of helps to eliminate that. Okay, so we just got to tighten that up a little bit. You don't have to go too tight, it's just got to sit below the recess. And then yeah, so it's quite solid, and that's sort of the finished product. Okay, what you can do is you can also remove the logo from the old key that would usually sit in here, but this one's disappeared. And you can, if you pop a bit of glue in here, you can pop the logo on and then you're good to go. Okay, and then obviously battery sits in like that. And then I can show, I've got a tool here, just set this to frequency. That's it. Okay, so that's the finished product. As said at the beginning, if you do have any issues, please do get in contact. We are here to help. We will help as much as we can. Now, as I mentioned through the video as well, some or a few of the steps are quite fiddly, but to be honest, you know, more than 90% of people get along with it quite well. Okay, but if you don't, please do get in contact, and we'll try our best to resolve any problems. Thanks for watching.